hello, and welcome to another episode of Movie Thoughts. This is your host, Dominick. First time joining us, welcome. Welcome to the podcast. This is it. It's a guy on a microphone talking about movies. Exciting. Just me by myself in a dark room with a microphone. Fun fact, I'm trying to get a new microphone working. Not that this one's bad, but I was trying to get a new one to enhance it. And I just had a Bill O'Reilly, like, we'll do it live. Oh, we'll do it live. We'll do it live. Fuck it. Something I've probably referenced on this show already. But I don't know. This new mic, it's supposed to be better than the one I'm using. And it sounds shitty. So rather than record a new episode with a shittier mic that I think that the sound quality is going to sound off on, I'm just using my traditional microphone. That's right. We're going, kicking it old school, and I'm using my microphone that I always use. So yeah, those familiar with the podcast shouldn't experience any differences in the sound. Whatever. I guess that's it. That's my story, right? How's everybody doing? Everybody good? I'm all right. I don't know. I had a busy schedule this week. Didn't really like it. Worked different hours. Was kind of on suicide watch a little bit. Anybody ever deal with that? Maybe I'm sharing too much. I don't know. But I managed to go to the movies tonight on Thursday, so I was excited about that. My schedule allowed me to do that. There's 2 movies out this week, 2 big ones. There's Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, I believe it's called. I may be mispronouncing that title, or maybe what's the first one called? This is Spider-Man Across the fucking Spider-Man. I'm gonna Google it, guys, because we'll do it live. We're not doing this live because I'm Googling it. I'm doing the opposite of doing it live because I don't know, these titles always fuck me up. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, right? That's a movie. And the first one was what? What the hell was it? People are probably listening to this going, "You asshole!" They're yelling into their radio, however they're listening to me, and they're saying, "What are you doing? Why don't you know the information?" As I struggle to do this still. So Across the Spider-Verse is the new one. Okay? That's the new one, right? The first one was Into the Spider-Verse. Wow, I'm a fucking dumbass, which I liked, and I just wasted time talking about Spider-Verse movies. But this is airtime. So did I waste any time? Because if you're listening, I didn't waste any time. But the other big movie this week is The Boogeyman, which is the one I saw if I was, getting to that point, right? I mean, I want to try to see Spider-Verse at some point this weekend. I probably will. Look forward to my review coming from that. But for now, it's about The Boogeyman because who doesn't like a little horror movie? A little horror movie once in a while never hurt nobody. I'm a big horror fan, as you know, on this podcast, and hey, I gotta go see it. The trailers looked intriguing. They made me excited. I liked that they didn't show the monster in the trailer. I was kind of like, all right, this is cool. I dig it. It's kind of has the feelings of Insidious and Sinister and all these. I don't know. There's something about movies, and I'll get to this when I talk about the movie. But like a lot of these movies tend to feel the same to me. I don't know if it's just me, but you kind of feel like listen, there's great horror movies that come out nowadays. We're lucky enough, to get movies like Pearl, Barbarian was a fun one. But then there's a lot of movies that come out and they just kind of follow the same old, bullshit. And it's like, I come from the classic era, the fan of the classics, right? So when, doing the same things that have been done all the time, it kind of gets repetitive, right? Recently we had Evil Dead Rise, which was, obviously a sequel or reboot to the Evil Dead franchise, and I thought it was good, and in a situation like that, you kind of expect it. They, do a lot of stuff they've done before. They flipped it on its head a little bit by setting it in a high rise, but some modern horror gets a little boring, right? Big one recently was the Terrifier movie. The sequel, Terrifier 2, is like fucking 6 hours. of gore. I talked about it a little on a previous episode. I don't think I got into like full details. It's an alright movie. You know, it's a little like it's fucking long. I mean, I don't think a movie like that should ever be 2.5 hours. But you know, the gore's fun and stuff like that. They just said they're making a third one with a bigger budget and stuff like that. I'll check it out. Listen, I'm not like a die-hard Terrifier guy, but it's not the worst movie in the world. Not the best movie in the world, but you know, there's a lot of horror coming out now. This movie, The Boogeyman, is based on a Stephen King short story from back in 1973. Which, to be honest, I'm a big Stephen King fan. Especially years ago. Now I'm kind of like I fell off a little bit with his last few novels and stuff like that. But like in my early 20s and before that, I was reading a lot of Stephen King. And I was reading a lot, and I was watching the mostly shitty adaptations of his films. And I'm just kind of missing a lot of the things. You know, I love The Stand, obviously The Shining, you know, the differences between The Shining book and The Shining movie. You go on that's a whole podcast in itself. But, you know, Carrie, Salem's Lot, I just love all those books. And more so than his novels, he's a very fucking good short story author. You know, like as far as novellas and just little fucking right to the fucking chase stories, he is, pun intended, the king of that. You know, and that's kind of like a dying art in itself. Now, I don't remember reading The Boogeyman, but now as I'm pulling it up, The Boogeyman was originally in a magazine called Cavalier, and it was later included in the 1978 collection Night Shift, which I do own, which I have read, but this was years ago, so I don't really remember the story. I was reading up on it where it's like, just to refresh my memory a little bit, it was set in a psychiatrist's office, which is, you know, a main focus in this movie, but not the whole story. But the great thing about Stephen King short stories is sometimes they get adapted better than his feature length novels. Now, I think one of the reasons for that is books, movies, Stephen King said himself, it's apples and oranges, right? I mean, like, that's also coming from a guy who absolutely fucking hated Stanley Kubrick's The Shining, which, you know, understandable. You know, from an author's point of view, you're changing characters, you're taking liberties. It's not the story you wanted it to be. But anyway, they're apples and oranges, right? You read a book, you see a movie adaptation, there's a lot of differences. There's some characters that don't even exist in the books and whatnot. And sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. Most of the time with Stephen King stuff, especially, I think Shining, you know, being the exception, because The Shining is like its own fucking beast, that film. And yet again, maybe I'll do a podcast about The Shining and Doctor Sleep and all that, because I don't want to fall down the the rabbit hole and get into Jack Nicholson and all that. But a lot of King's books obviously tend to be better than the film adaptations. You know, there's some that are good, there's some that are, you know, but as far as the ones that are based on novels, especially, because a lot of the time they don't really get to do what they want to do, right? You read The Stand. The Stand's 1,000 pages, and it's this fucking end of the world about the plague and all these intricate characters and details. And then you watch the TV movie of The Stand. I didn't watch the newer one that came out a few years ago, but like I'm talking about the one from the 90s with like Rob Lowe and Gary Sinise, and it's not terrible. Some of the acting's a little fucking dated and cheesy, but you don't get the full scale of The Stand. You know, it you know, obviously was done in the 90s as a TV movie as well. Tim Curry famously played Pennywise the Clown. That's the film I grew up with. It's always been cheesy, but it's fun. It kind of takes, yet again, another 1,000-pager and puts it into, what is it, 3 hours or whatever it is the TV movie equates to. And it's fun, but it's completely, you know, different as far as like when you're getting into the core of what happens in the novel. The adaptation that came out years ago, the two-parter, I liked Chapter 1 a lot. Chapter 2 didn't, it kind of missed the mark a little bit. It wasn't that it was bad. I think it was a little bit overlong and stuff like that. But I want to rewatch those movies at some point. But my point is, Stephen King's hard to adapt from these giant novels, right? But like a lot of the time with the short stories, sometimes they make better movies because there's more things that, let's say, a screenwriter could do, or just a different spin they could take it. For instance, Shawshank Redemption is based on a short story. It's based on Rita Hayworth and the Shawshank Redemption, I believe was the title of the short story, right? In different seasons. I believe it's in different seasons. If I'm remembering, if my Stephen King knowledge serves me correctly. I don't want to pull up the Wikipedia and start going through the books, but that movie, obviously, Frank Darabont turns it into this fucking classic. One of the best movies ever made. Morgan Freeman, right? Fucking, what's his name? Tim Robbins. It's great. The movie's fucking one of them. Andy Dufresne. The sisters never touched Andy Dufresne again after that day. Get busy living. I'll get busy dying. That's my Morgan Freeman, guys. Tim Robbins, I got to work on. I don't know. But anyway, my point is, again, in that book was another short story, The Body, okay? That got turned into Stand By Me by Rob Reiner. Great fucking movie. One of my favorites, right? One of my favorite King adaptations. Now, it's not always the case. As I said, The Shining, different. Carrie, Brian De Palma's Carrie, good. Misery, also by Rob Reiner. James Caan, Kathy Bates, fun, scary movie. But the point is, it's hard sometimes to adapt. Now, this was from a short story, The Boogeyman, which, like I said, I don't fucking remember for the life of me. The director of this film is a guy named Rob Savage, and he did some movies, Dashcam, Host, movies that have been, getting some attention, right? I think a couple of them were Shudder or something like that. And this was a movie that was originally supposed to go, I think, to Hulu. I want to say Hulu or Max. I might have my stuff scrambled up, but this was supposed to be a streaming-only movie. Test reactions and audience reactions and whatever the fuck, and just, confidence in this movie got it a theatrical release. So that hyped me also. That was like, all right, this is cool. This could be cool. This movie stars Sophie Thatcher, Chris Messina, who was just in that movie Air. He played a funny agent. He played obviously based on a real guy, but he was in that. He was good. Vivian Lyra Blair, who played Princess Leia in the Obi-Wan show, and David Malchin, whatever the hell his name is. You know who he is. Okay, he's in Ant-Man. He's in The Dark Knight. He's Polka Dot Man in the Suicide Squad. He pops up in a lot of stuff. He's in Prisoners. Guy's climbing the ladder, right? Good actor. Plays a good creepy guy. A lot of fun to watch. And this movie basically, I'm not going to, like I said, I'm going to be light on the spoilers. It's about the fucking boogeyman, right? It's about the fucking boogeyman that every kid knows what the boogeyman is, right? It's one of those, you're a kid, your cousin. I still remember my cousins, teasing me with the boogeyman and stuff like that, being in like somebody's house in Brooklyn and fucking some weird staircase that led down. And somebody's like, oh, the boogeyman's down there. That fucking scared the shit out of me. I don't know what's going on. What the hell's a boogeyman? What is it, Boogerman? Is he related? I don't know what that is. Side note, because we're always going side note here. Boogerman? Does anybody know what Boogerman is? Maybe let me know. It was a Sega Genesis game. It's like a superhero, and he literally like picked his nose and threw boogers. I remember playing it. My cousin rented it years and years ago when we were kids, and like, I don't know, it was a fun game though. He picked boogers, I think he burped and shit too. Weird. But we're talking about Boogeyman, so maybe I should stay focused, right? So yeah, everybody knows the Boogeyman. It's something that the title alone will get asses in the seats. Now, as far as the movie, the trailer, like I said, it got me. I liked that they didn't really show the Boogeyman, so to speak, and they kept that kind of dark. And that's one of the things they keep in the dark throughout the movie, as we'll get into in a sec. But like, trailer got me hyped. Now, watching this movie, I want to say it was. I'll give you the if I give you the basic rundown, it's all right. It's it's something, as I said earlier, like that feels like a lot of other movies, right? It feels like you're Insidious, or it feels like you're whatever the fuck movie come out. It's not like so much as a ghost story, like The Conjuring or something like that, but it has those feels. The Boogeyman, so they use him sparingly. This Boogeyman, right? They keep him in the shadows. They keep him in the dark. They don't show him a lot. They kind of do the whole Jaws trick where they're going to show the least possible. Now, I won't get into, I mean, like, me describing it is not going to, like, what I will say, I guess you could consider it a spoiler if you're going to fucking, if you don't want to, you want to go in completely blind, but I didn't really love the creature design. I was, especially with the teases, I mean, I guess your imagination is always just going to picture something so much better. So when you're seeing those trailers with the darkness and whatever the fuck, you're like, oh God, what's lurking? Like, I think you start going to the back of your mind to like your childhood and you're trying to think of what the scariest thing could be. And I don't know. I don't know what the hell that is for me. I my own reflection in the mirror, but when you're watching the movie, or at least from my perspective, like it I don't think it's ever going to really live up to what I imagined. I wanted something a little bit scarier. It was kind of like I don't know if I could say like Gollum from Lord of the Rings, Smeagol on crack, with kind of like, I don't know, ET feet. I don't know. You don't see a lot of them. You don't see a lot of this fucking thing. You see him in fleeting glimpses. When a light turns on for a second, maybe you catch his face. Towards the very end, you get a couple of shots of his face, and I'm sure there's fucking, if you Google image it now, I'm sure his face is everywhere. You can find it if you want to really look at it, but you don't really get a good look at it, which is I respect it. Like I said, it's kind of like the Jaws trick. Just keep it fucking moving, keep it in the shadows, keep it in the water, and it makes it a little bit more scary because you never fully see it. Because some movies, that's the thing, like, as a movie, you'll fucking jam it down your throat, and then you've seen the monster so much throughout the movie that by the time you're in the final act, you're not even scared of this thing anymore because you know what it looks like. So I do appreciate that they did that. The cast is all good, as I mentioned before. The cast, very believable. The kid that played Leia, the girl, she's good in this. The other older sister is good in this. The father, good relationship. As I said, the guy, the polka dot man, I'm not David Ant-Man. Not even gonna try to pronounce his name again. But he's good in it for the. He's in more of like a small role, but creepy. Sets up a good ambiance. The film, like, opens literally with some like terrifying stuff happening, and then jumps to the family that we're focused on. We meet our character. The wife has passed away, the mother of these two children, and we get in with them, and they there's a good amount of time spent where you're able to sympathize with these characters and what they're going through, where you do care about the characters. But as I said, a lot of the tropes that we've seen hundreds of fucking times in these movies are there, right? The jump scares are there. It's the way it is, and it's one of those movies that, as a seasoned horror fan, if you're like me and you're a seasoned horror fan, you're not going to go into this and be like, whoa, this was great. It was fine. It was, like I said, it was fine. Is it good date movie? Horror movies, always a good date movie, as I say. Enough scary scenes. My wife jumps. She jumps at almost everything. She might jump at like a pig with a Richard Nixon mask coming in the house. If you watch, I think you should leave on Netflix. You know what I'm talking about. I'm just gonna leave it at that. If you haven't seen the new season that just dropped, and then there's a funny sketch there. But there was one moment when she my wife mentioned something with that because the way the creature was crawling around. But anyway, I'm losing track here. Decent, like. I wouldn't have thought it was a Stephen King thing because this is not, like I said, this well-known story. As I said, it's from 1973, last published really in 1978 in the Night Shift collection. It's not something that people have been clamoring for, but sometimes those make great fucking adaptations. Now, as far as its move from streaming to the theater, I'm all for theaters. You know that. I've talked about that hundreds of times in this podcast. Love the theater, love the theater experience. Always there. Live in the movie theater. But as far as like, I could see, I don't know what the budget was. Not gonna get into like budgetary things, but this was planned to be streaming, and it's evident that this was planned to be streaming. It's got the feeling of that type of movie that you watch on Netflix. Check it out one night when you're bored at home, eat some popcorn, and maybe never watch it again. It's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just kind of like, it falls into the forgettable category, right? Nothing from this movie's making me like, oh, I gotta go fucking see this movie again. It's bone chilling. It's creepy. It's got the jump scares, as I said. A lot of cliches, a lot of cliches, especially dead parent cliches. Why are the fucking kids in school always so mean to the kid who just lost a parent? Well, why is that? Does that ever happen in real life? I don't know. Like, I think even the cruelest bully might have a moment of clarity and be like, hey man, sorry about your dad or your mom. But like, there's always like this relentless, especially in horror movies, there's always like some fucking bitch, particularly in this movie. It's a bitch, and she's just like, oh, your mom's dead, nobody cares. And the girl's mom died. And I think it was a car accident or something. It's fucking horrible. Like, have some empathy. Have some empathy for a moment, and I don't know, don't be a bitch so much. But yeah, good performances all around. Enough scares. Kind of gets silly towards the end. Gets a little bit borderline ghost story at times. I didn't know if it was going into some directions. And like, listen, you're watching a horror movie about a fucking boogeyman who lives in the closet. So like, I could check reality at the door. But some, one of the rules of writing and stuff like that is like, establish, the rules of the universe from the beginning of the movie. So some stuff, not that it's like they hit you in the head with stuff, but like some stuff towards the end of the movie, I felt like, they're going that way. I don't know if I loved it. But yeah, all in all, it's a popcorn movie. I don't know what comes out. Like Spider-Verse, as I said, came out this week. Spider-Verse is probably going to take the cake from this one. I mean, this will be a movie that people see. There's a nice handful of people in the theater, and scary movies always make money. I don't know if it's going to be one of those scary movies that keeps rolling, keeps making money, and gets hype. A la like Barbarian, as I mentioned before, where it keeps going. It just has that traction and word of mouth and stuff like that. I just think it just fell a little too much into that generic category. And that's it. I mean, I want to go back and read the Stephen King short story, as I said, reread it, because I definitely have. But especially when you're basing it on something that is a very, simple premise. They're taking a lot of liberties. They're adding a lot of stuff in. Is there really any mythology? There's not really any mythology behind the creature. It's just kind of like there's a couple of rules they set up, and kind of like it's one of those curse things where it gets passed on and stuff like that. But nothing you've ever seen. You've never seen, really. The creature, as I said, I don't know. I want to fucking sit there and go, what the fuck is that? I want to sit there and I don't know, be be sweating in my seat. I would have a little bit more character. I wish was in this monster, because I felt like it was a little bit lacking. But whatever, maybe people like it. I don't know. If it almost felt like not to compare it to like Cloverfield, but it almost felt like that. The Cloverfield monster. It's an okay design. You remember that movie Super 8 as well? J.J. Abrams did. Like, that was another one that, I liked that movie a lot. It was Stranger Things before Stranger Things. And maybe I'll do an episode focused on Super 8. But in that movie, a lot of the trailers and stuff like that, they didn't show anything with the monster. And then you see the monster in the movie, like, it's alright. But yet again, is it just the imagination? Your imagination running wild, your expectations running wild? Who fucking knows? I don't know. I'm not an expert on this. I'm not a psychologist. But yeah, that's basically it. Boogeyman's, I guess you're going to see it. Like, if you're going to go see it, if you got nothing else better to do. But now we're getting closer to The Flash. We're getting closer to Indiana Jones, which It's getting some mixed things. I'm a little scared, but as I say, I never fucking fully follow reviews, as you shouldn't fucking fully follow my fucking opinion. Go see shit yourself, so maybe you'll like it better than me. But in the big scheme of all the movies that are coming out, I don't know if this is one that I was like, you gotta go see it. It'll be on streaming in 2 weeks. That's what it comes down to. What else is going on? I don't know. The Rock, unrelated to the Boogeyman, The Rock. I guess me just saying The Rock would announce that this is unrelated to Boogeyman. The Rock announced that there's going to be a Hobbs movie, not Hobbs and Shaw, in Fast and the Furious news, because we gotta hit the Fast and the Furious news. So The Rock is back as Hobbs. He announced this. Spoiler alert for post credits of Fast X. If you don't know, The Rock's back. Now you know. And he just said that he's gonna be in a Hobbs movie that's going to be a bridge in between Fast X and Fast 11. I don't know. Is that now? Because Vin Diesel's all like, there's going to be 3 movies now. They said there was going to be 2, but now there's going to be 3. Is this the 3rd movie he's referring to? Or is there going to be a Hobbs movie, then another Fast, then a Fast 11? I'm thinking it must be this, because I think it would just be, not that they wouldn't they wouldn't overdo it, because Fast and Furious overdoes it. But I don't know. I don't even know why I'm sharing this news. I guess it's just funny because I was just reading like that The Rock came out and said all this stuff, and then he said like Vin Diesel and him squashed their beef, which who knows if that's really true. I think they just looked at each other and were like, we can make a lot of money together. And that's basically, maybe he sang to him or something, Vin Diesel, because he sings sometimes. It's unsettling. But yeah, that's my Fast and the Furious news, I guess. And also, there's a rumor, which is fucking. This is, I don't got a lot to talk about when we get into Fast and the Furious rumors and news, right? There's a rumor that Vin Diesel, and I don't know how true this rumor is. Take this with a grain of salt, because I don't even know where it came from, and I don't like to be the guy that shares rumors and bullshit as actual news. But there's a rumor that I saw from a couple different outlets that Vin Diesel is not happy with Jason Momoa's performance in this movie, and that he stole the movie, and he's blaming bad reviews. I don't know. I've heard mixed things, but take it with a grain of salt. But I guess don't take it with a grain of salt either, because it's been known that The Rock and, as I just said, Vin Diesel had a beef. And, they had some ridiculous beef where they had to have the same amount of punches when they were fighting. Nobody could win the fight in the movie. This is a fairy tale. These are fairy tale problems here. But I wouldn't be surprised if that's true about the Vin Diesel, Jason Momoa thing. But I thought Jason Momoa was, one of the better parts of that movie. I think he made that movie funner than it would have been with a more conventional villain, as some of the previous ones have had. So, whatever. Who gives a shit? What else? That's it, I guess. That's an episode. A little short episode today. Nothing crazy. Yeah, I might see Spider-Verse. I don't know. Maybe tomorrow. I'll see. I don't know, man. It's, I'll try to fit into my schedule. I'll try to see it this weekend. Because then, they slippery slope. Then movies come out next week, and then I fall behind. What else is going on? I don't know. I got a few things up my sleeve, so I don't even want to spoil them, but we'll get into that in another episode. If it's the first time you're checking this podcast out, welcome. This is what it is. This is what it is, okay? As I said, I've done all other movies, right? We've done Fast X. We've done fucking, I don't know, what else? What movie comes out every week? We did the Mermaid movie. I do a little bit of everything, right? That's what I do. So check out the other episodes if this is the first time, and subscribe and rate and review and all that bullshit. I don't know how it works. Just do it, because everybody else says to do it, so just do it. Follow me on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter at Dom Solo Reels. I put up some funny, stupid stuff. Also check me out on the It's a Long Road podcast, the Rambo podcast, with my friend Ryan, where we're smack dead in the middle of the 4th installment in the Rambo franchise, the alternate cut John Rambo, where we're talking about Sylvester Stallone, his big hair and his face that looks like a vein. Fun stuff. But look up that podcast. It's also available on Spotify and iTunes and all that shit. But that's it, guys and gals. Have a good night, and thanks for listening.